Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back. I'm James. It's Friday and you're watching Blue Dog Reptiles. If you're new to this channel, thanks for tuning in. Please consider subscribing. We bring you educational videos on reptiles each and every Friday. And if you are a current subscriber, thanks for tuning in. We have had a very busy week with a lot of new reptiles and Black Friday was a huge success, and that's thanks to a lot of you. And so I wanted to say thank you on that. Today what we're going to be talking about are gargoyle geckos. Now we actually got two of these little guys in, and I will actually show you the other one. Let's see if you can see where he is. Leave us a comment down below if you can see where he is. I gave you a hint, he's blending in very, very well. This one back here is actually called a marbled gecko. And you can see our ferns are growing in very, very nicely. And this one is called a red striped gecko. Now, the gargoyle geckos, you can see these guys are just little babies. But these guys come from southern New Caledonia. And look at that. I just love their eyes and love the patterns. This guy is just a little cutie and they're so adorable. But these guys eat insects, and so at this size, you know, we feed them smaller crickets or mealworms. And then we also feed them, as you can see, we have some rapashi in here. And there is a gargoyle blend, but you can also use crested gecko blend as well. These guys, typically as adults, they'll hit 6 to 8 inches, which isn't terrible for a gargoyle gecko. Right now we have them in our 8x8x12 just because they are babies. And eventually, so as adults, they'll need to be in 18x18x24s, and they'll need a lot of vertical space as well. Now you can see between the two setups we actually have very different looks for them, and this one we are letting grow in. I do need to cut back the fern a little bit, but you can see this one also has the rapashi there. But this one has a pothos plant, but we have branches. And when we knew that we were going to be putting the gargoyle geckos in here, we actually incorporated several additional branches for them to climb on. But yeah, these guys are just incredible. And you can see, I mean, your branches are going to be determined on the size of the gecko. So you can see that with the striped gecko right here, he fits very perfectly on that branch, which works out very, very well for him. These guys, if you are interested in them, be prepared. These guys can live anywhere from 15 to 20 years, so a very, very long commitment. And as always, you know, we do promote bioactive. It's overall beneficial for these guys. I know it's kind of hard to see. I guess you can see down here. We actually have the clay balls for humidity. We have the screen layer, and then we have the soil, and we have moss. And we have pillow moss in this one, and then this is a fern. And then, like I said, we have shredded sphagnum moss and sheet moss in here. We have small pieces of cork, and then we also have these are called golden pothos, and they are growing very, very well. Pothos, do be mindful that they grow very rapidly, and so you do need to go through and cut them back on a regular basis. Like I said, I do need to go through and cut this fern back, but it's doing exactly what it wants. Or I might reset it up, because we did have a subscriber that commented on one of our videos asking if we would do a crested gecko bioactive build to show how we do it. And these are all of our bioactive builds for our crested geckos. This one needs to be redone. I don't like how it looks, so we will absolutely do that for you. So tune in next Friday, because we will do a bioactive build from start to scratch, or start to finish. There we go, not start to scratch. It's a little odd, but you can see with this one over here, I actually need to cut that one back as well. But back to these little guys. Like I said, bioactive with the springtails, the isopods. It's going to be more beneficial for them. You want to give them places to hide. That's why I like the big broadleaf plants or the fern, it covers very, very well. You'll see these guys out basking and just either on the branches, or you'll see them hiding back in the moss. I really like this piece. This is a piece of spiderwood, or 2 pieces of spiderwood, and it fit the theme very, very well. And as that pothos grows in, it'll put in a lot of coverage over here. It's just, I'll have to contain it and make sure that it sits sits right in the tank. Decor comes down to lots and lots of hiding spots. So when you look in a bioactive setup, it should actually take you a few minutes to actually figure out. So this one was originally sitting up here on the branch. And if you haven't guessed already, let me pull it back. He's right there on the wall. Marbled geckos blend in very, very well. So, hi. Hi, you see him moving? Yeah, and the marbled geckos actually have the little spots on their body. So it's really cool. I don't want to disturb him too much. Now, level of care for these guys is, I would say it's easy, but with some restrictions. So overall care for these guys is very much like a crested gecko. They're going to have very similar temperatures, very similar humidity, similar diets, and similar setups. However, just like crested geckos, you do have to be mindful. These guys versus crested geckos, and maybe it's different for you guys, but they don't like to be handled a whole lot. So if you do want to handle them, just do it carefully, especially as babies like these guys, and do it in, I wouldn't say handle them daily. I would say only handle them a few times a week if you are going to handle them. And just be very, very careful. Try to zoom in. I love that eye. Look at, oops, sorry, my camera went crazy. But look at that face, that body. That's just awesome. Now, temperature for these guys, typically your basking spots should be between 80 and 85 degrees. The overall ambient temperature should be between 70 and 80. And that can be accomplished by like a 40-watt basking bulb, depending on how big your enclosure is. Obviously, if it's something this small, then you want to have a smaller bulb, like a nano bulb, which they make nano hoods that sit on the tops of these with the UV. Just like crested geckos, you don't necessarily have to have UV, but I always recommend UV for... That's cool. That's a cool look through there. Huh. I always recommend UV lights for any type of reptile. Now, for these guys, temperatures on the low side. Now, they can be down in the 65 to 70 at night. So, as long as your house doesn't get below that, then you don't have to put on a nighttime basking bulbs. And please don't use red. You may think it looks cool, but it's very disrupting to their eyes, and studies have shown that it can lead to blindness in reptiles. So if you are going to use a nighttime heat source, I would recommend using a ceramic heater. And then a couple more things. Humidity should be between 60 and 80%. These guys are surface drinkers, just like crested geckos. So spraying the plant, spraying the glass or the moss gives them a chance to drink, especially if you first order one in or get one into a new setup. Make sure to spray it very well, so because a lot of times when they're being transported, they get dehydrated, and so we want to make sure to rehydrate them. And then lastly, let's go over what these little guys can cost. Now, cost on these guys is anywhere from about $140 to $1,000 depending on morphs. And that's just because there's so many different morphs, just like any other reptile. And depending on, they get up there in price. This boy in particular is $300, so it's not terribly expensive up there. But as these guys get bigger and more mature, and then once they're positively sexed, then that price can go up. So that's it, guys. Tell me what you thought of this video. Also, leave us a comment of what type of videos you'd like to see in the future. We have lots of new reptiles I'd like to show off on this channel, including some snakes. We have some corn snakes and some really cool king snakes. But thanks for tuning in, guys. Like I said, if you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing. And as always, keep your family close and your and your reptiles closer.